where horror lies.
From Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. I am your regular Wednesday evening host here at BodyBags, and we are very quickly approaching, well, this Monday will be my official 3rd year anniversary here at BodyBags, going way back to the very first review I ever did, The Thing from Another World, which I may put up on the BodyBags Facebook channel Monday, just for nostalgia's sake, maybe. But 3 years, man, we are on the edge of 3 years. Who would have ever thought? Definitely not me. So what I have for you today, as you can see from the title, is something a little different. I can't show it out because there's no physical media release for it quite yet. But compliments of Netflix, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities is, I think the whole thing is dropped now, all 8 episodes maybe. And I highly recommend you check some of these out, man. Graveyard Rats. There's 2 versions of the film. From its director, the tailored black and white cut, which is phenomenal to look at, and of course the color, right? But tucked in the middle of this 8-part series, I think, is of course Del Toro's love for Lovecraft is on full display, with an entry entitled Pickman's Model. Of course, is adapted from H.P. Lovecraft's story written in 1926, I believe. The following year put into Weird Tales. And then the very next episode is Dreams in a Witch House. Now, Keith Thomas directed Pickman's Model entry. I am a bit of a Lovecraft fan. This is just one of the many volumes I have of his short stories, as well as his poetry. And I'm thinking it's, oh, come on now, the historian, Lovecraft's historian, S.T. Joshi. How is that? His double volume biographical look at H.P. Lovecraft, as well as a few other books that he has authored. But anyways, I decided to, I usually would do this before and then watch the film or whatever. But I reread Pickman's Model this morning in lieu of having already seen, I think twice I watched Pickman's Model. And so, you know, when it comes to Lovecraft, it's you know, I know Stuart Gordon has made a name for himself adapting Lovecraft. I think the best one. Well, I'm pretty sure he did Dreams in a Witch House for Masters of Horror, and that was a pretty solid entry. But he also did Dagon, which you do hear the music behind. That is not the music to the Cabinet of Curiosities. I just needed something on. But to celebrate Lovecraft, moving from the written word to the screen, or TV as we would have it. So Keith Thomas, he adapted Pickman's Model. I would say just some of my thoughts on it from the short story. The essence, and more than that, is on full display. His love for Lovecraft is on full display. The mythos is on pretty well full display. You gotta look close. There's certain scenes that seem that he has taken great thought from the short story, and which only runs about, I don't know, 5-6 pages or something. And there's certain pieces in that story that I think he gravitated to, as well as the whole story, and lifted up and put certain scenes as he envisioned it. Lovecraft's will go deep into the history and lore of Boston, that forgotten age, you know, tunnels running out to the sea, pirates bringing things in, and of course the witches of Old Salem, an old stock, the old golden age of horror, or really the golden age of mystery. And I think this is what Lovecraft really does more than anything, is he wants and desires for that forgotten old age of mystery to be front and center, even if it is as Pickman or as Thurber in the short story mentions how Pickman views the horror world on full display. Pickman as a character is one in the short story, and then in our Pickman's model here for Netflix there. Pickman, I gotta say this, I'm gonna ramble all over the place because it's like I got both the short story and the show. But Crispin Glover plays Pickman, and he is, man, he might be the best part of this for me. I have a really hard time sometimes when who are they gonna get? Who are they gonna get to play certain characters? And I have to say, Crispin Glover steals the show in this. As imperfect, as flawed as any piece of Lovecraft material can or is ultimately, Crispin Glover, absolutely. We've seen it with Jimmy and going back to Friday the 13th Part 4, right? And he's been in numerous things. But he is aged and matured, and he is absolutely right to play Pickman. In fact, I wish we could see his character on full display, played by Crispin, on a much more grand, theatrical showing. But for what we get here, and I think it just runs an hour and 1 minute. Some of it feels compact. Some of it, honestly, it doesn't feel like rushed, but certain emphasis is placed on characters more than others. I would say the character of Thurber, now in the short story, Thurber is relating his incidences that he has with Pickman to a friend Elliot, and so it's really just narration of Thurber telling his story. Thurber in this episode is an actual full character, and so much of it revolves around him is Pickman's sort of impact on his life, his world, and how it's just what Pickman sees in his paintings infects and really, really quickly begins to decay Thurber from outside inward in. But some of this evolution takes leaps, and in the sense that Thurber's descent is a bit too quick. Now, Pickman is paced, I think, brilliantly, perfectly. We get just enough of him that we know something is off. We just know something. Crispin Glover, man, is awesome in that. In terms of showing us that side. But in terms of the painting, so basically the story, if you've never read it, if you've never seen it adapted in any other way, shape, or form, basically what you have, as I said in the short story, Thurber's relating to a friend Elliot about time spent with Pickman and how it just really rocked his world. Now, how the short story ends in terms of Pickman's fate and how this episode ends in terms of Pickman's fate does take a detour. And I was all right with it. It's not, I don't know. I wonder how the episode would have felt at the end had, it just seems like so much emphasis is placed on the lap of Thurber at the end and what happens to him, and we sort of forget what happened to Pickman. In the short story, Pickman, Thurber doesn't realize the horror, the completeness of the horror until the next morning. He is putting something in his pocket from his experiences the night before in where Pickman lives, and it sort of opens up just the realness, the reality of the horror that Pickman had been tapped into. Here we get a horror that unfolds more intimately in terms of Thurber and his wife and his child, which sort of, I say rushes, but very quickly by the end, when the end finally unveils itself, it's too quick, it's too fast. It's kind of like you've taken your pace, or you're taking your time and you've paced in certain areas of what you're doing, and then finally, when the end does unfold, it should be the mother of all shocks, and it just, I don't know, it's not quite. But it's good. I mean, for Lovecraft, for going from the word to the screen and everyone's interpretive abilities, look, the mother of all interpretations, Richard Stanley has already given us A Color Out of Space, but the mother of all interpretations might be Guillermo del Toro himself when he unleashes, and I just got to believe by faith it's going to happen, The Mountains of Madness. It's going to happen. It's just, please believe with me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. A multi-part series with Netflix, which seems to be where we're headed. We could spend all day talking about other people's interpretations of the Lovecraft mythos or his work specifically, but Keith Thomas, I thought Keith Thomas, man, in terms of painting certain atmospheric qualities and really realizing the story, as short as it is, but adding enough around it, and then, taking us through, really, I mean, I think what's more on display here is Pickman himself and his character and how he's been infected, and he is a bit off his rocker, man. You can see it in his eyes, his facial expressions, and he needs to somehow infect someone else with it, and this unfortunately is Thurber and ultimately his family. So anyways, I don't know, I'm not going to say anymore. It's a fun episode. It's a fun episode, and especially when you go back, I think you'd be pleased, you go back and read the original story and just see how closely it really is. I mean, it's done pretty fairly well, I think. Kudos to Keith Thomas. Good job. I don't know how Dreams of the Witch House is. I have not seen it. I'm saving it because I'm going to review that next week. And I'm going to revisit the short story as well. That story is a little bit lengthier. So I'm curious. But I have thoughts on that. Or I know I will for sure. Anyways, so here on week, I didn't even tell you guys, week 473, it is a random week. I'm delving a little bit into the Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities and Pickman's model as an entry. But I have to tell you, you got to check this series out. This series is pretty well crafted, pretty well put together, and Del Toro himself kind of gives us a Alfred Hitchcock type opening in each episode, which is also Netflix. That is where you can find it, and hopefully we'll get a physical media release on that at some point down the road with the whole season. We can only hope, right? As always. And kudos to my dogs last night. They clinched the SEC East, and Bills and Vikings today. We'll see how things go. And I'm seeing the Beyond on the big screen, so bam! All right. And that's in 4 days. Anyways, as always, go Bills.